Hi everyone, it's Navani Krishnan from IIT's GATE classes. In this section, we are going to see GATE 2007 Aerospace Engineering Solutions for the topic Aircraft Performance. GATE 2007 question paper is of 150 marks. In that, aircraft performance has been, there have been total of 13 questions have been asked under aircraft performance, out of which 4 are 1 mark questions and 9 are 2 mark questions. So total 22 marks has been asked in the topic of aircraft performance. In that, question number 7 first. For maximum range of a glider, which of the following condition is true? Option A, lift to drag ratio is maximum. Option B, rate of descent is minimum. Option C, descent angle is maximum. Option D, lift to weight ratio is maximum. We already know that for a glider, tan gamma is equal to 1 divided by CL by CD. That is tan gamma equal to 1 divided by L by D. And also we know that tan gamma equal to height divided by range. So equating these two equations, we get it as height divided by range equal to 1 divided by CL by CD. In this, gamma is the glide angle, h is the height from which the aircraft is gliding, range is the total horizontal distance covered on the ground. So from this, range is directly proportional to CL by CD. Range is directly proportional to CL by CD. For maximum range, CL by CD should be maximum. That is, lift to drag ratio should be maximum. So option A is the correct answer. Then now we'll move on to the next question. Question number 12. Let an airplane in a steady level flight be trimmed at a certain speed. At a level and steady flight at a higher speed could be achieved by what? Option A, engine throttle only. Option B, elevator only. Option C, throttle and elevator together. Option D, rudder. In order to achieve higher speed, we have to change the throttle. So higher speed can be achieved by changing the throttle. But when you are increasing the speed, lift increases. But we have to maintain a steady level flight. So we have to maintain the same lift. That means we have to reduce some other quantity in order to compensate for the increasing speed. So what happens? In order to decrease this, in order to maintain the same level flight, we have to change the elevator settings by deflecting it upward, thereby creating a reduced camber, thereby CL is decreased. So lift is maintained as same as the previous flight, thereby we can maintain a state and level flight. So in order to maintain a state and level flight at an increased speed, throttle and elevator together should be deflected. Next, question number 16. The drag divergence Mach number of an aerofoil. They are asking us to define what is the drag divergence Mach number of an aerofoil. Option A is a fixed number for a given aerofoil. Option B is always higher than the critical Mach number. Option C is equal to critical Mach number at zero angle of attack. Option D is the Mach number at which shock wave first appears on the aerofoil. First of all, we have to know what is critical Mach number, because they are, in option B they are given about critical Mach number. Critical Mach number is a point, is the Mach number. It a free stream Mach number about which it is a subsonic free stream Mach number about which at any point of the aerofoil it reaches Mach equal to 1. That is, it is the Mach number about which any point on the aerofoil it reaches Mach equal to 1. That means it is a subsonic Mach number, like at Mach number 0.6 or 0.7, the flow on the aerofoil accelerates, thereby at any point on the aerofoil reaches Mach equal to 1. Now we have to define what is drag divergence Mach number. Drag divergence Mach number is always higher than the critical Mach number, slightly at a higher Mach number compared to critical Mach number. Shock wave is formed on the aerofoil. So as Mach number increases, that is speed increases, the shock wave continues to grow in strength, thereby it spoils the flow on the upper surface of the airfoil, thereby drag increases drastically at certain Mach number. The Mach number at which the drag increases drastically is known as drag divergence Mach number. So first, option A, it's a fixed Mach number. It's a fixed number for a given airfoil. It is not a fixed number for a given airfoil. Next, option B, it is higher than the critical Mach number. Yeah, it is higher than the critical Mach number. Option B might be correct. Now, option C, it is equal to critical Mach number at 0 angular. No, it is always higher than the critical Mach number. So option C is also wrong. Option D, is the Mach number at which shock wave first appears on the airfoil? No, slightly before the drag divergence Mach number itself, shock wave appears, but at this point only it foils the flow on the upper surface of the airfoil, thereby drag increases drastically. So option B is the correct answer. Now question number 20. One of the criteria for high-speed airplanes is that critical Mach number should be high as possible. Therefore, high-speed subsonic airplanes are usually designed option A, thick airfoils, option B, thin airfoils, option C, laminar flow airfoils, option D, diamond airfoils. What is critical Mach number? I told that it is a subsonic Mach number about which any point on the airfoil it reaches Mach equal to 1. That is, if this is the airfoil, what happens is, let us consider at 0.5, somewhere on the airfoil, the highest Mach number reached is something around 0.85. Let us assume this. Now, slightly we are increasing the free stream Mach number. This is the free stream Mach number. Slightly above the free stream Mach number, something at 0.65, something around, this is something around 0.65. It reaches Mach equal to 1. This is the highest Mach number it reaches on the airfoil. So whenever it reaches Mach equal to 1, the corresponding Mach number at which it reaches Mach equal to 1 on the upper surface of the airfoil is the critical Mach number. So in this example, 0.65 is the critical Mach number. If we have to increase the critical Mach number, we have to, what happens? We have to decelerate the flow on the airfoil. That is, acceleration on the acceleration on the upper surface of the airfoil should be decreased. That is, increase in velocity, increase in acceleration of the on the upper due to curvature. What happens is, due to this curvature, what happens is the flow velocity increases on the upper surface of the airfoil. So if you decrease the curvature, thereby what happens? The critical Mach number can be increased because the acceleration will be less. So we can increase the critical Mach number. So in this, if we are using thick aerofoils, what happens? Thick aerofoils, the curvature will be more, thereby acceleration on the upper surface of the aerofoil will be more. So if we use thin aerofoils, acceleration on the upper surface of the aerofoil will be less, thereby critical Mach number can be higher for thin aerofoils than the thick aerofoils. So option B is the correct answer. We will move on to the next question. Okay. Question number 27. Two aerofoils of the same family are operating at same angle of attack. The dimension of one aerofoil is twice as the large of the other one. The ratio of minimum pressure coefficient of the larger aerofoil to the minimum pressure coefficient of the smaller aerofoil. Minimum pressure coefficient doesn't depend upon dimension of the airplane. It only depends upon the aerofoil, the family of aerofoil which we are using. So since we are using same family of aerofoil, the minimum pressure coefficient on the larger aerofoil and the smaller aerofoil will be same. Thereby, the ratio will be equal to 1. Understood? That is, if the aerofoil changes only, there will be change in minimum pressure coefficient. If the aerofoil doesn't change, the minimum pressure coefficient doesn't change. Thereby, since we are using here the same family aerofoil, thereby minimum pressure coefficient doesn't change. Thereby, the ratio will be equal to 1. So option C is the correct answer. Next, question number 28. Wing A has constant chord and span. Wing B has identical but as span OB. Wing A has a constant chord C and span B. Wing B is identical but has a span OB. When both the wings are operating at the same geometric angle of attack at the subsonic speed, then wing A and B produce same lift coefficient. Option B, wing A produces smaller lift coefficient than wing B. Option C, wing A produces greater lift coefficient than wing B. Option D, free stream Mach number decides which produces the greater lift coefficient. So the thing is, here lift is equal to half rho v square SCL. So what happens here is, if we are using same chord and span, then wing area will be same. Sorry, thing is, if we are using same chord and if we are using wing A as chord C and span B, that means constant chord C means that is it is a rectangular wing. So wing area can be written as B into C. Since we are using same class of aerofoil, identical means both wing are having a same aerofoil. That means CL on the aerofoil will be same. Only thing, CL can be improved by changing by using eye lift devices. Thereby, here since it is identical, that means no eye lift devices are used. That means both are producing same lift coefficient. Only lift changes. Lift of wing A will be wing B will be 4 times higher than the wing A because span is increased 4 times higher than the wing A. So lift is directly proportional to your wing area and CL. Since wing area increases, lift increases on the wing B, but lift coefficient remains same because we are not changing angle of attack, and at the same time wing B is identical. That means we are using same class of aerofoil as wing A, thereby lift coefficient never changes. So option A is the correct answer. Wing A and B produces same lift coefficient, but it produces 4 times higher. Wing B produces 4 times higher lift than the wing A. Okay. So option A is the correct answer. Next, a piston prop airplane. Question number 33. A piston prop airplane having propeller efficiency neta P equal to 0.8 and weighing 73,108 Newton could achieve maximum rate of climb of 15 meter per second at flight speed of 50 meter per second. Excess brake power at above flight condition will be. Okay, we already know that rate of climb can be written as V infinity into sine gamma. So that is V infinity equal into thrust minus drag divided by weight. So thrust minus drag into velocity can be written as maximum brake power. Okay, maximum excess power divided by weight. Okay, since we are using propeller engine airplane, so rate of climb is nothing but here there is a mistake. Rate of climb is nothing but excess power divided by weight of the airplane. Excess power is nothing but thrust into velocity minus drag into velocity divided by weight. Excess power is thrust into velocity minus drag into velocity. This is power available. This is power required divided by weight. Power available minus power required is nothing but your excess power. But what they asked you to find out, maximum brake power. So this is can be written as neta P into maximum brake power. That is, maximum excess power can be written as, if rate of climb is maximum, the excess power is maximum. So maximum excess power can be rewritten as neta P into maximum brake power divided by weight. So already rate of climb is given as 15 meter per second, and maximum brake power we have to find out, and weight is given as 73,108 Newton. Neta P is given as 0.8. If you substitute all this in this formula, maximum brake power can be obtained as 1371 kilowatts. 1371 kilowatts. So option C is the correct answer. We'll get it in 1370,775 watts. If we convert into kilowatts, it is 1371 kilowatts. So option C is the correct answer. Okay, option C is the correct answer. Now we'll move on to next question. Question number 36. An airplane is flying at an altitude of 10 kilometers above sea level. The outside air temperature and density at 10 kilometer altitude are 223 Kelvin and 0.413 kilogram per meter cube respectively. The airspeed indicator of the airplane indicates speed of 60 meter per second. Density of air at sea level is 1.225 kilogram per meter cube. value of gas constant R is 288 joule per kilogram per Kelvin. The stagnation pressure measured by the pitot tube mounted on the wingtip of the airplane will be of magnitude. They asked us to find out what is the stagnation pressure. Okay, stagnation pressure can be written as P naught equal to P plus half rho V square, where P is the static pressure plus half rho V square is the dynamic pressure. Static pressure plus dynamic pressure is nothing but your stagnation pressure. From that, we can, from the ideal gas equation, P equal to rho RT, we can find out what is the static pressure. P equal to rho RT, what is that? P equal to rho RT. Rho is given, R gas constant is given, temperature at the 10 kilometer altitude is given. So static pressure at that altitude can be is obtained as 2652124 524.512 Newton per meter square. Okay, since we already obtained what is that, we already know what is the speed of the airplane, equivalent speed of the airplane, that is 60 meter per second. Substituting here in this relation of rho v square, we get what is the dynamic pressure. So half rho v square of rho is nothing but 0.413, that is the density at the 10 kilometer altitude. 60 is 60 meter per second is the equivalent speed of the airplane, square of rho v square. So static pressure plus dynamic pressure, we get total pressure, that is stagnation pressure, equal to 2.73 into 10 power 4 Newton per meter square. So option C is the correct answer. This can be written again as differently, that is we already know that what is given, ideal gas equation given, that is already we know that P equal to rho RT. Rho is already given at 10 kilometer altitude, it is 0.413. R ideal gas constant is 288 joule per kilogram per Kelvin. Temperature at the 10 kilometer altitude is 223 Kelvin. So static pressure is equal to 26524.512 Newton per meter square at 10 kilometer altitude. Now, what is the speed we measured? It is the equivalent airspeed of the airplane, but because it is measured from the airspeed indicator. So, equivalent airspeed is nothing but V equivalent is nothing but 2 into P naught minus P by rho S. That is, density is at sea level condition, because we are only measuring equivalent airspeed, not true airspeed. Whatever we got from the airspeed indicator is nothing but your equivalent airspeed. So 60, that is equal to root of 2 into P naught minus P, already we got it, got the value here, substitute it here, divided by rho S is nothing but 1.225 kilogram per meter cube. If you rearrange this, and we get what is P naught equal to 28729.5 Newton per meter square. That is nothing but 2.87 into 10 power 4 Newton per meter square. So 2.87 into 10 power 4 Newton per meter square is nothing but option C is the correct answer. That is, only change here is from what I have written from what is given here is, only change here is Here we since the speed measured is equivalent as speed, the density we have to use is not at 10 km altitude density, it is density at sea level we have to use, thereby we'll get it as 2.87 into 10 power 4 Newton per meter square. So option C is the correct answer. Next, question number 60. An airplane section is known to generate lift when placed in a uniform speed at an incidence alpha. The biplane consisting of such a section of identical chord separated by height h. With regard to this biplane, which of the following statements is true? Both the airfoil experience an upwash and increased approach velocity. Option B, both the airfoils experience a downwash and an increased approach velocity. Option C, both the airfoils experience an upwash and airfoil A experience decreased approach velocity while airfoil B experience increased approach velocity. Option D, the incidence for the individual sections of the biplane is not altered. The thing here is, since both are identical and placed one and above the other, the approach velocity will not be getting changed because both are having a free stream velocity u. So approach velocity will not get changed. So option C is not the correct answer. Okay. So the only thing is, since aerofoil A creates an upwash for aerofoil B, aerofoil B creates an upwash for aerofoil A, thereby what happens here is, no, whatever I said is wrong. The thing is, uh, since both are placed one above the other, the both experience only upwash. There is no downwash here because it is one above the other. It is, if it is one behind the other, then it is, there will be a downwash on the aerofoil which is behind. But since both are one above the other, both is having a upwash, thereby there will be increased approach velocity on both the aerofoils, because since both are experiencing upwash, both will have an increased approach velocity. So option A is the correct answer. Next, it is linked question. It is for common data for question number 76 and 77. For piston propeller airplane weighing 20,000 Newton, the flight testing at 5 km pressure altitude in standard atmosphere gave the variation of power required versus true airspeed as shown in the figure below. That is, they are given a power required versus true airspeed curve in this figure. Okay. The maximum climb rate at sea level was calculated to be 4 meter per second. That is, maximum rate of climb is 4 meter per second. Assume shaft power available to be independent of speed of flight. For piston propeller airplane, it can be assumed that shaft power available is proportional to ambient density. The value of air density at sea level and at 5 km pressure altitude are 1.225 kilogram per meter cube and 0.74 kilogram per meter cube. That is, they are given density at sea level and density at 5 kilometer altitude. They also given what is the minimum power required at sea level and minimum power required at 5 kilometer altitude. The minimum power required at sea level and at 5 km altitude is same. from this figure, that is equal to 5 into 10 power 4 watts. These are the given data, and weight is also given, that is 20,000 Newton. Now we'll move on to the question number 76. This is the common data for question number 76 and 77. So we'll move on to question number 76. The maximum rate of climb achievable by this airplane at 5 km altitude will be option A 1.65 meter per second, option B 0.51 meter per second, option C 1.43 meter per second, option D 3.65 meter per second. So we have to calculate what is the maximum rate of climb for this airplane, right? So rate of climb is given as V infinity into sine gamma, that is equal to V infinity into thrust minus drag divided by weight. So rate of climb is nothing but power available minus power required divided by weight. Rate of climb maximum is equal to, what is rate of climb maximum? Power available minus power required minimum. Power available is same. If you are calculating rate of climb, power available will be same. But power required, for when power required is minimum, rate of climb can be maximum. That is divided by weight. So minimum power required, already we know that from the curves, it is 5 into 10 power 4 watts. That is nothing but 50,000 watts. Maximum rate of climb is given in the above statement, that is equal to 4. Okay, so at sea level, power available is nothing but 1,30,000 watts. This is at sea level what we are calculating. Now we have to calculate at what is the this is sea level power available. So we have to calculate what is the power available at 5 km altitude. So power available at 5 km altitude is nothing but, it is depending upon the density, because power available depends upon the density factor. So power available at sea level divided by power available at an altitude equal to density at sea level divided by density at an altitude. Density at 5 km altitude is also given 0.714. Density at sea level is given 1.225 kilogram per meter cube. Power available at sea level, just now we calculated, that is equal to 1,30,000 watt. So power available at an altitude can be 5 km altitude can be obtained as 78,530.61 watts. Altitude at 5 km altitude, density is 0.74 kilogram per meter cube. I have wrongly said as 0.714 kilogram per meter cube, but it is given as 0.74 kilogram per meter cube. By using that, we can calculate power available at an altitude equal to 78,530.61 watts. So at 5 km altitude, rate of climb maximum can be calculated, that is equal to power available at 5 km altitude minus power required minimum at 5 km altitude divided by weight. Since power required minimum from that curve for 5 km altitude is also 5 into 10 power 4 watts, so 50,000 watts. Power available at 5 km altitude we obtained here, and divided by weight. Weight is nothing but 20,000 Newton, which is given in the above statement. So rate of climb maximum at 5 km altitude equal to 1.42 meter per second. So it is option C is the correct answer. Okay. Correctly, we'll get it as 1.426 meter per second. So when we approximate it, it is 1.43 meters per second. So option C is the correct answer. Now, in the linked question, question number 77, if during maximum rate of climb at 5 km altitude, the airplane was flying at an angle of attack of 4 degree, attitude angle of 5 degree, what was the equivalent speed of the airplane? Option A 40.2 meter per second. Option B 63.7 meter per second. Option C 130.3 meter per second. Option D 20.2 meter per second. First of all, we have to know what is attitude angle. Attitude angle is nothing but pitch angle. Pitch angle equal to alpha plus gamma. That is angle of attack plus climb angle. Okay, from this we can obtain the climb angle as 1 degree, because pitch angle we know that it is given as 5 degree. Angle of attack is also given as 4 degree. From that, climb angle can be obtained as 1 degree. So what is that? We have to calculate what was the equivalent speed of the airplane. So rate of climb maximum is given, that is equal to 1.43 meter per second. We already obtained from question number 76. That is rate of climb maximum at 5 kilometer altitude is 1.43 meter per second. So we use the data divided by sine gamma will give us what is the equivalent speed at 5 kilometer altitude, which is 81.93 meter per second. Okay. Which is the true speed of the airplane, which is not the equivalent speed of the airplane, it is the true speed of the airplane. Because whatever from the rate of climb which we obtained is the true speed of the airplane. Because we are measuring it from the corresponding altitude. Because rate of climb is used at the corresponding altitude, not at the sea level. So it is the true speed of the airplane. So in order to calculate what is the equivalent speed of the airplane, we can equate half rho Vt square equal to half rho V square. From that, the equivalent speed is equal to rho by root of rho by rho infinity into Vt. That is true speed of an airplane. That is equal to, since true speed of the airplane is 81.93 meter per second, and rho at 5 kilometer altitude is 0.74 kilogram per meter cube, which is given in the previous connected question. And rho in T, that is density at sea level is 1.225 kilogram per meter cube. If we substitute all this, we'll get equivalent speed of the airplane equal to 63.68 meter per second. So what is that? It is option B is the correct answer. Now, next linked question. It is question number 78 and 79. This is the common data for the question number 78 and 79. The model wing of a rectangular platform has a chord of 0.2 meter and span of 1.2 meter. It has a symmetrical airfoil section whose lift curve slope is 0.1 per degree. 0.1 per degree. When the wing is mounted at 5 degrees angle of attack in a free stream of 20 meter per second, it is found to develop 35.3 Newton lift. When the density of the air is 1.225 kilogram per meter cube. Question number from using this common data, the question number 78 is lift curve slope of this wing is option A 0.1 per degree, option B 0.092 per degree, option C 0.075 per degree, option D 0.05 per degree. So lift curve slope is given, that is dou CL by dou alpha is 0.1 per degree, 0.1 per degree, and angle of attack is given, that is alpha at 8 degree angle of attack. Free stream velocity is given, u equal to 20 meter per second. Okay, so what is that? So thing is, we have to find out lift curve slope of this wing. So for a symmetrical airfoil, the lift curve slope looks like this. That is CL versus alpha for a symmetrical airfoil. If it is an cambered aerofoil lift curve slope looks like this, CL versus alpha. That means at zero angle of attack, the lift coefficient CL value is 0. This is the lift curve slope of the symmetrical aerofoil. So lift curve slope is nothing but CL divided by CL2 minus CL1 divided by alpha 2 minus alpha 1. That is dou CL by dou alpha. This is the lift curve slope. Since at zero angle of attack, the lift coefficient is also 0 for a symmetrical aerofoil. So it can be written as CL2 divided by alpha 2, which is nothing but what is lift coefficient at 8-degree angle of attack? That we have to calculate. What is the lift coefficient at 8-degree angle of attack? So in order to calculate that, already lift is given. Lift is nothing but 35.3 Newton. Rho is given, that is equal to 1.225 kilogram per meter cube. S is not given, but it is given as rectangular platform of chord 0.2 span 1.2 meter. For a rectangular wing area can be calculated as B into C, that is span into chord, that is equal to 0.24 meter square. Only and velocity is also, free stream velocity is also given 20 meter per second. When you substitute here, we'll get CL equal to 0.6. So from that, CL can be obtained as 0.6. So 0.6 divided by 8, we'll get it as 0.075 per degree. That means option C is the correct answer. Okay. Now in that linked question, question number 17. The span efficiency factor of this wing. So the thing is, here we have to find out span efficiency factor of this wing. That means the data given here is for aerofoil section, not for the wing section. So we have to calculate what is the lift curve slope for the wing. In order to calculate, we already calculate what is the lift curve slope for the wing, that is equal to 0.075 per degree. From that, we have to find out what is span efficiency factor. So lift curve slope for a finite wing is equal to A, that is equal to lift curve slope for an aerofoil A naught divided by 1 plus A naught divided by pi ER. If lift curve slope is given in per radian. If the lift curve slope is given in per degree, then we have to use a factor. If lift curve slope is given in per degree, we have to use per radian. That is, if the lift curve slope is given in per degree, we have to use this relation, that is 1 plus 57.3 into A naught divided by pi ER, where A naught is the lift curve slope of the aerofoil, A is the lift curve slope of the wing. We already know lift curve slope of the wing we have calculated, that is equal to 0.075 per degree, that is equal to lift curve slope for the aerofoil is also given, that is equal to 0.1 per degree plus 57.3 into 0.1 divided by 5. We have to calculate what is the Ostwald efficiency factor. Since then we have to calculate what is aspect ratio. Aspect ratio is nothing but B square by S. So for a rectangular wing, S is nothing but B into C. So from that, aspect ratio is B by C, that is equal to 6. So we have calculated aspect ratio also. Substitute all this, we will get it E equal to 0.91. Okay. if simply it is in per radian lift curve slope, then we can directly use this relation. Otherwise, here we have to divide it by 180 by pi. That is nothing but here 57.3. That is, instead of using calculating all this, if this is, if it is in per radian, use this relation for lift curve slope for finite wing and infinite wing relation. If it is per degree, use this relation to find out what is the lift curve slope for the finite wing. Okay, from that Oswald efficiency factor is calculated as 0.91 using this relation. So this is the span efficiency factor of this. This is the last problem in this section. Okay, thereby total of 22 marks has been asked in this GATE 2007 for aircraft for the topic aircraft performance. GATE 2020 is GATE 2007 is nothing but it is for 150 marks. So out of which 22 marks has been asked under this section.